Good afternoon. I'm Jeff Adelman, and this is another edition of Questions for Lawyers. This is the last show of 2019, and it is a good one. Today, I have Adam Myron sitting with me, and Adam is an attorney, and he is running for judge in Palm Beach Group 30. I'm going to have an opportunity to speak with Adam and talk to him about why he's getting into the race, a little bit about his background, and it's absolutely a pleasure to have you here.
Very good to meet you, Jeff.
So tell Adam, if you could, tell the people watching, listening later, a little bit about your background. You grew up in Florida.
I did. I grew up in Palm Beach County. I was born south of the county line at Plantation General. I don't really remember months 0 through 6. But after month 6, my family moved up to Royal Palm Beach. I grew up there, and then we moved to Wellington, which was nearby, and went to school in Palm Beach County. I went to Suncoast High School, and it's really where my roots are. And so after I went to college at Emory University and law school at George Washington in Washington, D.C., I worked up in Washington, D.C. for a short while, and then came back to where my roots are, and met my wonderful wife, and we started a family, and we choose to raise them right where I'm from.
Tell them a little bit about your family.
Yeah, my wife, Stephanie, she's also a lawyer, which makes for some interesting conversations at home.
I'm sure.
And we have 2 amazing children, 2 sons. One is 2.5 years old, and one's still a baby at 8 months.
Oh, that's wonderful. So you really you're born and raised in Florida, and you're a rarity because we're contemporaries, and most people I know are from somewhere else.
That's right. Usually from the Northeast somewhere, but I am from here. And so you grew up here as well, I understand.
Yeah, I moved here when I was 9 years old from Chicago. But like I said, I'm about as close as anybody can be from growing up here. I mean, I've been in Coral Springs for 34 years, my family. So similar backgrounds with that. Just
kindred spirit.
Yes, indeed. So tell me a little bit about you. When did you decide to become a lawyer?
Oh boy. I think growing up, it was always in the back of my mind as one of the career choices that I wanted to pursue. And when I was in college, it kind of got solidified. I took some of the science and math courses that were very popular amongst a lot of the people at Emory because there was a big pre-med program there. And at the same time, I took some philosophy and linguistics courses, some political science. And at some point I said, okay, it's set. I need to go into the law because I'm definitely one hemisphere of the brain oriented when it comes to certain things. I'm good at math and science, but I'm really good with language and social skills. And I knew that I could have a positive impact by going into law. Yeah.
What type of things have you done as a lawyer? Like what type of cases do you handle?
Sure. When I first began my career, I was working for a real estate outfit up in Washington, D.C. But when I moved back to Florida, I began working at the Cole Scott and Cassane law firm. Okay. And then a little bit after that, I eventually went to a firm called Richmond Greer, which has a 6-decade-long life, and it's still going. It's now merged into a new firm, which is called Day Pitney, and that's a national firm. And what I've done during the course of my career is primarily business and commercial litigation. I've done some employment litigation, some real estate litigation, and probate and trust, and some guardianship cases as well. And then I also became a certified mediator after a number of years because although I love being an advocate and I'm great at being an advocate for one side, I also really just love being a neutral and coming in and helping people who have some sort of dispute resolve that dispute so that they can walk away at some point and say, all right, I can breathe a little bit easier now. That's over. That part of my life is over, and somebody helped me get there. So I like doing that as well. And so I mediate cases as much as I can.
Tell us a little bit about what you have to do to become a mediator, to become a neutral.
Yeah, so in Florida, in order to receive certification as a mediator, you have to take a 40-hour course. And you also have to observe or participate in a number of mediations. It depends upon the education level you have. It depends on various other factors, how many observations you have to engage in. And for me, it was about, I think, 8 or so observations that you would have to take. A couple of things were co-mediated that I did when I was going through the process, and so that lowered the number. But those are the basics of how you become a mediator. And then, you want to make sure that you keep, well abreast of all of the cases that come out, of all of the ethics opinions that surround mediators, so that you know that you're doing a good job as an impartial neutral. And so read up as much as you can on negotiating strategies as well. And that I think helps you become a more effective mediator. And then you just have to go do it. And that's how you become really skilled at what you do. And I think if you care and people see that you care, it really makes a difference, and that results in more work.
Also saves people a lot of money when they go to mediation.
It saves people a ton of money. And that's one of the advantages of it, because people have such a unique opportunity at mediation to resolve their dispute. And it's an opportunity that doesn't come along very often in the life of a case. In my opinion, the sooner you can do it, once you're at a point where you understand the case and the other side understands the strengths and weaknesses of their case, if you can get into mediation, I think it's a great thing.
Well, you mentioned before that you worked at Colescott and Cassane, so you were doing some personal injury work over there. You've done real estate. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing now at your current firm.
So business and commercial litigation casts a very broad net. It could be your standard breach of contract case to a non-compete case where somebody has left employment and perhaps they need to get into similar employment and they're being sued by a former employer because they have a contract where they're not going to get into that line of work for a certain period of time or in a certain geographic location. Or it could be the employer who wants to enforce their non-compete. So I do a lot of non-compete work as well. There's some trust litigation that I'm engaged in right now, pretty much across the state. And so, those are the types of things that I do at the moment. But it really can be just about everything. And frequently what I do is I help people who are going through some sort of LLC, limited liability company, or other type of dispute with a business partner. That happens all the time. And it's like a divorce, but for a business. And you got to help people navigate through that. It's a difficult thing for people to end their business, and it helps when they have lawyers that can really sort of help broker some sort of situation where you're not fighting all the time and the business gets ruined in the meantime. And so I do a lot of that work as well.
Sounds like you're very passionate about what you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what is it about working in those type of cases that really motivates you?
Well, what motivates me is the desire to help someone in some way or another. And I know you're going to ask me about it, Jeff, but it is a natural transition for why I want to become a judge as well. I think that, and I know I'm going to wait for your questions on that, but it's a desire to help someone somehow, and I'll tell you why in a moment why I think I can have that on a greater scale.
Well, yeah, I don't know how you anticipated where I was going, but I mean that
might have something to do with that.
It might be. I guess you're happy with what you're doing. Why make that transition?
Yeah.
If you're lucky enough to be elected as a judge in Palm Beach County, why do you want to do it?
Yeah, that is a great question, and I am very happy doing what I'm doing. Being as I've hinted several times, being a lawyer is a way to really, really help people, right? And I work with some of the best lawyers that I've ever known, quite frankly, and it's the same people that I've been working with for at least the last 14 years of my 17-year career. Some really great mentors. Having said that, I recognize that being a judge is one of the other ways that somebody in the legal community can have such a really positive impact on their community, and I want to do that for Palm Beach County.
Well, what is it that, if you are elected as a judge, that you bring to the table for the voters of Palm Beach County? What is it about you that would be best served on the bench?
Yeah. So I'm really proud of our judiciary in Palm Beach County. And I recognize that you need to continue to have really great people on the bench, good people who care. Because most people, and I recognize this, most people don't even meet a judge until maybe one of the worst days of their life.
Mm-hmm.
It could be for the beginning of a civil trial where they're seeking compensation for some sort of injury. It could be for the breakup of a business, as I was saying a moment ago, or the breakup of a family. It could be for a criminal matter where they're going to be going into court and having their first appearance, and then later having an arraignment where they're going to plead guilty or not guilty to a crime. These are some really important moments in a person's life. And so you need people on the bench as judges who recognize that the power that they have, and recognize how important it is that all those people, no matter who they are, whether they're represented by a lawyer or they're not, or they can afford legal services or they can, all those people have to recognize that the system will work for them if there's dignity, if there's respect, if there's professionalism and civility in the courtroom. And that starts from the judge on down. It doesn't start just from the people walking into court and with the lawyers, and then it goes to the judge. No, the judge has to set the tone. And if the judge sets the right tone of professionalism, dignity, and respect, then it's a trickle down effect to everyone else. And I think that helps litigants and the community know that the system does work. Even if they don't win their case, the system works for them. They're going to get a fair shake when they're in the courtroom, and they're going to get civility and professionalism. And so recognizing that those are the goals of some of the goals of a judge, and recognizing that you need such great people and people really willing to put in the work in that respect on the bench. I know that over my 17 years of practice, I've not just developed the skills necessary for a judge, but also the demeanor, also the cool, calm demeanor and patience necessary for a judge. I know that I'm going to treat everyone in the courtroom the exact same way, no matter who they are. I'm going to apply the law fairly and equally. And I don't think, I'm going to go out on a limb here, Jeff, and I'm going to say this, but I don't think that a judge who is applying the law fairly, equally, and impartially also can't have compassion for human beings. And that's me.
I think that's so important. There's no worse feeling. Obviously, losing a case is one thing, but thinking that it had something to do with you not getting a fair shake, there is no worse feeling than that. You feel like you put all this time and energy and effort, and you weren't heard.
Person's life is long. In the moment of a win, it might feel really good, but when they look back years later, I think it's much more important to know that the system worked for them than that just the fact that they happened to win on one moment of their life.
What you touched about compassion in the courtroom. What other traits do you bring to the bench if you were elected as a judge in Palm Beach County?
Yeah, so as I was saying, I have the skills and the temperament for this, but some of my personal traits, just that I care about people. I am a calm person. I don't get easily riled. I do a lot of mindfulness meditation, actually, and I think that's had a really positive impact on my life. For me, mental health and wellness for lawyers is a really important
big issue right now,
and that's one of the pathways that I see. Take a moment, calm down, calm yourself, focus, clear out your mind, and it's not just new age mumbo jumbo. It really works for people. It brings a sense of calm, emotional control, and a little bit of dispassion, so that you can kind of look at things in a neutral way. So that's how I feel like that my personality really fits for someone that you need on the bench.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because I've adopted that a little bit myself with mindfulness. Read a book. I don't know if you're familiar with Tim Ferriss.
I don't think I've
he's one of those gurus or whatever,
okay.
But he put together a really amazing book called Tribe of Mentors. And what I noticed about that book is all these successful people, I would say 80% of them mention mindfulness and meditation, even if it's 10, 15 minutes a day, just not having any stimuli, nothing else, just calm in your mind?
The information overload that we have as individuals now is not like at any point in history. If we go back 500 years, there was a whole different set of problems that somebody had in their life. But one of them was not information overload. They weren't connected to phones. They weren't on a computer, Facebook Living, which there's great technology advances that we have and we can take advantage of. But there is no doubt that there is a war going on for our attention spans. And every bit of our day, somebody's trying to gobble it up so that they can get our attention. Mindfulness really lets you break away from all that. As you were just saying, you break away from it, you have a moment, you kind of recoup. And I think the benefits are tremendous.
I actually look forward to it when I do it. It's kind of like nobody can bother me during that time. And I know that there's different programs for lawyers that they're pushing and all that, but I just use the Calm app.
Oh, yeah.
On the iPhone. So it's been very helpful. Well, your wife is also a lawyer.
She is.
Okay. Well, what does she do?
My wife has her own victims' rights law firm. She practices in the area of stalking, cyber stalking. She goes out and gets injunctions for stalking, cyber stalking, what's commonly referred to as revenge porn, sexual assault, violence. She does really amazing work where she helps victims. I couldn't be more proud of her, and I have nothing but respect for what she does. It's incredible. It's
so needed in these times. You see things on the internet or social media, and it's just incredible how people can get angry and try to damage somebody. Really,
it's shocking, actually. So yeah, she does amazing work, and I'm not just saying that because she's probably watching.
Well, that's good. Well, John,
but it doesn't hurt.
John Moran is watching right now, so if you want to,
hey John, how's it going? Long
time
no see. I don't know.
You're still not seeing him.
See his name.
Now, can you tell us a little bit about what you do? I know you talked about mindfulness, meditation. What other things do you do to relax?
Sure. I love to read. I have to have some sort of book in my life at all times. I'm a big fiction fan. Exercise is very important to me. I don't just run in campaigns. I also try to get outside and run. In fact, I've done a number of races over the years, from half marathons, haven't stepped up to a full marathon, but some half marathons, a lot of 5Ks and things like that, and a handful of triathlons. And I know what you're going to ask me now, I'm sure, but go for it. And I'm going to tell you a very embarrassing story.
Oh, well, there's two things I can go with.
Oh, no.
But the first one, I'll be serious. These races, triathlons, half marathons, how does that apply to your practice as a lawyer and towards your demeanor if you were to be a judge? That's a great question. So the lifespan of a case, either as a lawyer or when I'm going to be sitting on the bench, that's a long lifespan, and you have to kind of see things with a long view. Running races, other than maybe the 5Ks, although to some extent the 5Ks, but the longer races, you have to pace yourself, and you have to recognize that it's not, you can't just go full bore all at once. You have to really go in measured steps and take a long view at every moment of how what you're doing at one moment will affect the next. So if you are, for instance, running too hard, you're going to cramp up and you're not going to be able to make the next leg of the journey. So I actually think, and I never really thought of it this way, so it's a great question. I'm glad that you got me thinking about it. but it really does translate nicely into the practice. Yeah. Well, the next thing I was going to ask you about, because you're really passionate about running, so passionate that I was going to ask you a little bit about when you proposed to your wife. Yeah. I mean, you're hardcore. If you could just tell them how that happened. Okay. All right. If you're watching, I know that you're probably smirking right now because you know what's coming next. And that was a direct message to my wife, not John Moran. So my wife is the one who got me into doing these races after we first met. And it was very hard in the beginning. And she, to this day, is much better than I am at all of this. But I was very committed after losing the first couple of triathlons that we did to her, that I was very, very committed
to finally finishing the triathlon first ahead of with a better time than her, ideally. And because things are kind of staggered, sometimes you get out and then 10 minutes later, the next wave will go. So that's why I could still actually finish first, but then have a worse time. But anyway, I wanted to get to the finish line first, and I wanted to propose at that point. And just like I was saying a few moments ago, if you go a little too hard, you might cramp up. And we finished, well, I finished the swim portion ahead of her. I did have a 10-minute head start, as I was saying. And so I finished, and I kept looking back, is she there? Is she getting to the next stage ahead of me? And then we got on the bike, and this was down in a race in Key West. And we got on the bikes, and I went through a naval air base as jets are taking off. And this is an incredible experience as you're watching all this. But at the same time, I'm looking behind me. Is she gonna appear in my sights at some point in time and overtake me? She didn't. I got through the bike, and then I started the run. And then I got a couple cramps in my legs, and I had to stop, and then I massage it out, and then I kept going, and another cramp. And finally, this was about a 6.2 mile run that we had to finish the race with. Mm-hmm. And so about halfway through, there's a turnaround. So at mile 3, there's a turnaround, and you go back to the finish line, or you go back to the main area where there's the finish line. And right as I rounded the corner to head back, there she is, maybe only 100 feet away. And there I am going, oh my God, my legs are killing me. And so I passed her, and then in the ultimate act of kindness, which proved to me that proposing was the right move, she handed me one of those little energy packets as we passed by each other. And this was great, but it didn't help because sure enough, she ran right past me. And I think I might have said something about, do you want to run the rest of this together, knowing that what's coming next? And she's like, no, see you later.
She just wanted to kick your butt.
She ran on, and some guy passed by. I was like, oh, what are you guys doing? I was like, yeah, I'm about to propose to her. He said, that's great. I was like, yeah, I want to do it at the finish line. I have to. She just passed me. And he goes, oh, how much longer do you have? I said, about 2.5 more miles. He goes, well, have fun with that. I get to the finish line. There she is. I think she thought when I got down on one knee that I was probably passing out, but then I had the ring, and she said yes. So really, she may have finished the race, but I think I was the ultimate winner that day.
Yeah, that's a great story, and I saw the pictures on your anniversary, and they always have the cameras right there, and it was just really a memorable day. It was really sweet of you to do that.
It was great. It was great
because you're both passionate about it. Have you done any Spartan races or anything like that?
I haven't. One of my colleagues has done some Tough Mudders, and I've heard that those could be a fun. I've
actually done them a few years ago. I'm not in shape to do it right now, but it's an experience. I will tell you for sure. Well, we've had, this has been awesome, just getting a chance to really know you better and introduce you to the audience and have you get a chance to kind of talk to people who may be voting for you. I guess really at this point, can you tell the people listening or watching what you will do if you're elected as a judge for Palm Beach County citizens? What are your plans?
Well, I've talked a long time about this now during this time, and I really appreciate the time you've given me, Jeff. Sure. I'll just end by making it actually very, very short and sweet, which is that if elected, I am going to be mindful at all times of the enormous trust that the people of Palm Beach County would have put in me to be good and to be decent and kind and treat everyone the same way, which is good and decently and with respect. Professionalism isn't something we just aspire to and hope we get there. It's something that we have to exhibit every single day of our lives. And if I'm honored and privileged enough to serve Palm Beach County as a judge, I will be mindful of that at all times.
Well, I wish you the best of luck. Thanks so
Jeff,
much.
It was so good meeting
coming
with you.
on with me. This was a lot of fun. For those of you in Palm Beach, the election is August 18th, 2020. Make sure that you are registered to vote. If you would like to ask Adam any questions, can you give out your email address?
Sure. I'll give out my my work. Well, actually, you can email info@AdamMyron4Judge, and that is FOR judge.com. And just looking through the list here, I see a few names.
I see Mark Greenberg on there.
Hi, Mark. Good to see you. Mark and I actually serve on the Alternative Dispute Resolution Committee for the Palm Beach County Bar Association. Another great guy, like Mark very much. And I haven't seen Miles McGrain in a long time, but it's good to see Miles there. Hey, Miles. I miss you, man. I hope we can get together soon. And then there's John. He's still there, so that's great.
That's awesome. Yeah, Miles and I are on the board together for Boda Fort Lauderdale.
Lucky
So,
you.
Yeah, we're very lucky to have Miles for sure. But well, Amen. I want to wish everybody happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, everything in between. Happy New Year. And this has been the 31st interview that we've done. I didn't realize that we were going to get to this point when I started doing these interviews back in January, but it has been a blast. And I promise to continue to keep doing it because the feedback I'm getting is tremendous. And I really enjoy educating the public and putting this out there for you. So if you have any questions or if you're interested on being on Questions for Lawyers, feel free to give me a call at any time, 954-341-2777. I'm Jeff Adelman. This is Adam Myron. Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.